Hello everyone, welcome, bienvenidos. I hope you're doing well. The purpose of this video is to help you apply what you've learned about nouns in Spanish. So be sure you've studied the topic in the textbook. Remember that you can also Google the topic and on YouTube you'll find lots of great videos that explain how nouns work and give you some good examples. So when you're ready to apply what you've learned, then come here. We'll go ahead and get started with the practice part in just a second. Just a little bit of review. So in the word the doctor, the word the is what we call the definite article. It's when you're referring to a very specific noun. For example, if I say, oh, that's the doctor that I was telling you about, I'm referring to a very specific doctor. If you ask me, well, who is that over there? And I say, oh, well, that's a doctor. I'm not being very specific about which doctor he or she is. It's just one of many. So that's what we call definite articles, referring to something very specific. That's the in English. A or an is what we call an indefinite article. So in this lesson, we were focusing on the definite article. So the big question is, how do you say the in Spanish? How do you say that? Well, my answer would be depende, which means it depends. Sometimes we use el and sometimes we use la, and I'm just talking about nouns that are singular. If they're plural, the el becomes los and the la becomes las. So it depends on whether you're talking about singular or plural. So we're just focusing on singular nouns right now. And the question is, oh, excuse me, that was my telephone. Perdón, fue mi teléfono. Okay, so again, back to the lesson. The question is, how do you know whether a noun takes el or la, since you have a choice? Well, el is what we call for nouns that are grammatically masculine, and la is for nouns that we call grammatically feminine. And this is just an arbitrary designation. There's no rhyme or reason. Some nouns are just considered masculine only because they take the el, and some are considered feminine only because they take the la. Now, the general rule is you just have to memorize. So as you learn nouns, be sure you pay attention to whether you see an el or a la in front of it. You just have to memorize. There are some rules that help you to determine when you see a word. For example, if you focus on the endings, nouns that end in O are usually masculine. Nouns that end in A are usually feminine. If a noun refers to a female, then the biological and grammatical genders agree, which means that, for example, the word for mother, madre, will be feminine, it'll take la. The word for father, padre, will be masculine, and it'll take el. So there are some rules that help you, but in general, you just have to memorize. So it really is just a matter of practice. So practice makes perfect. Remember, you can do it. You can, if you want to learn how to speak like a native, you can. It's just going to take some time and practice. So the more time and practice you put into it, the better you'll be. Okay, so now let's go ahead and begin. Vamos a empezar. Vamos a empezar con la práctica. Let's begin with the practice part. Okay, so I'm going to show you a word, and I'm assuming you've studied. If you haven't studied this before, then you can go through the practice part and learn it, and then come back to the beginning and play it again and quiz yourself. But at the beginning here, I'm assuming that you've studied these words in your textbook, and then I'm going to ask you to guess whether it's el or la before I show you the word. Okay, so doctora. Doctora, the word doctora refers to a female doctor because it ends with an A. It just is the word for a female doctor, and female is implied. Okay, so doctora, is it el or la? How do you say the doctor, meaning a female doctor? La doctora, la doctora, la doctora. Remember, listen and repeat. Repeat as much as possible, especially if you're a beginner with Spanish. The more you repeat, the better off you'll be in the long run. Okay, la doctora, doctor, doctor. How do you say the doctor? Now, this word means a male doctor. It's the word for male doctor, doctor. How do you say the male doctor? And again, the male is just implied here. El doctor. El doctor. El doctor. Báscula. Báscula. This is the word for scale, like when you weigh a patient. How do you say the scale? ¿Cómo se dice the scale? La báscula. La báscula. La báscula. And put the stress on this first syllable here because it's accented. It has an A with an accent mark. Báscula. Báscula. La báscula. Jeringa. This is the word for syringe. So how do you say the syringe? I'll give you a little hint. It ends in an A. Words that end in an A are usually, but not always, but usually feminine, grammatically feminine. So, you got it. La jeringa. La jeringa, the syringe. Receta médica. Receta médica, this is the word for prescription. Like if you go to the pharmacy and you take your prescription, it's the receta médica. So how do you say the prescription? Again, notice the ending of the word, actually both words. La receta médica. La receta médica. The prescription. Enfermera. This is the word for female nurse. And again, the female is implied when a Spanish speaker sees or hears the word enfermera with that ending. They know that refers to a female. La enfermera. La enfermera. If the nurse is a male, the word is enfermero. 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 So how do you say the nurse? Implying that it's a male nurse. The nurse. El enfermero. El enfermero. Técnico. Técnico. This is the word for technician, and it would be a male technician. El técnico. El técnico. The technician. El técnico. Técnica. This would be a technician, but a female technician. So how do you say the technician in this case? La técnica. La técnica. Emergencia. Emergencia. Emergency. How do you say the emergency? La emergencia. La emergencia. La emergencia. The emergency. Venda. Venda. This is the word for bandage. La venda. The bandage. La venda. Curita. Curita is the word for a band-aid or a small adhesive bandage. Curita. How do you say the band-aid? La curita. La curita. Medicina. Medicina, medicine. How do you say the medicine? La medicina. La medicina. La medicina. Píldora. This is the word for a pill. Píldora. Élola. Again, notice the ending. La píldora. La píldora. and we're putting the stress on this syllable here. Píldora. Píldora. Okay, well that's it for the practice part of this video. So remember, this is a first in a series, so if you find this helpful, then continue watching the videos in the series. If you didn't get everyone right before I showed you the answer, then go back to the beginning of the practice part and just keep playing it until you get them all right. And once you've done that, then you've really learned something. Okay, well that's it for this video. Hasta luego. Adios.